Well folks, it's that time of year to get the traps ready to go out on the trap line. As you can see, last night we just finished up the garden, got it all tilled, and so it's time to go trapping. We're boiling traps today, and we're going to go trapping starting Monday. And so just to show you a few things here, what we're doing, we like when it comes to the canine traps that I use, I like to use the wax and the dye system, the old setup. And just to show you right here, there's a couple different kinds of logwood dye. You've got the black crystals, which are right here, and you've got the brown dye. There's quite a bit of difference in price. The black crystals are usually around $10 a bag, and the brown logwood dye is usually around $4 a bag. They both dye the traps black, and anyways, we're using the red crystals today. If you want to look over here, you got the traps boiling. These traps have been in there for about 15 or 20 minutes right now, and here's some over here that we've already got done. Now when it comes to the water traps, which are all those piled up right over there, we're going to dip them. And the reason that I boil and wax the canine traps is I just like to do that to make sure that there's no odor on them. I've had better luck that way. I've had a lot of discussions with guys that have good luck just dipping them. But the water traps don't matter. They're going to be in the water, so we'll start dipping them. Along with dipping our traps, we also dip our snares, and that gives them a good camouflage coloring. One of them, these snares right here, yesterday were dipped in vinegar, or washed in a vinegar wash, and hung out here to dry overnight so that they're good and dry and don't have any odor on them. So what we do is we use the water-based dip from it's Dakota Line brand, and it's real simple. You just take a can, the can that it comes in, pour it in, and then add a can and a half of water. Now when you go to dip stuff, you got to make sure that this stuff is extremely well stirred up, because it settles really bad. And another thing that you want to do when you're working with the water-based dip is make sure you have a good temperature outside. It's about 70 degrees right now. I wish it was about between 72 and 75. It would be better, but hopefully we'll get a good dip. On the traps, they take the dye a little bit better, but the snares do not. And so it's important to make sure that you dip them when you have a good temperature. Also, when you're storing this in the wintertime, make sure that it does not freeze, because if it freezes in the spring, you'll have a big chunk of rubber in the bottom, and the rest of it will be no good. And so make sure you keep it warm. Okay, so you go to dip these on the snares. They're pretty simple. You just dip them and make sure that they're coated good. Now you don't want to leave them in there too long. You don't want to double coat or triple coat, because they get chunky and they can affect the way your snare works. So we'll just hang this up here. Now I like this yellow grass color because it blends in the best with the grass around here, and you can see the difference between the dip snares and the undipped snares. Makes a lot of difference in the way that the snare looks. Now one thing that I just wanted to mention is that coyotes, from my understanding, are colorblind. And I know from understanding that people who are recruited into the military for spotters, that they try and recruit colorblind people, and that's because they can spot movement and shades and stuff better than the colored seeing people can do. And so it's real important, I think, on the snares to get a good camouflage neutral color that blends in with the grass or branches or whatever is around it. The dye, the water-based Dakota line dye, comes in 3 different colors. This is the yellow grass here, and like I said, it blends in good with the grass. We got a good color on it this time. The temperature is good out here. And then I also decided to do some in the earth tone black. We have a lot of sagebrush out here where I trap, and the yellow blends in good in some areas, and then the black in a couple of areas. And so I got a few black ones just to fill in for those spots. So what we're going to do, we got the yellow and the earth tone black. Now I'm going to, like I said, dip my traps that are the waterline traps. Actually, these ones right here are 120s. I use them for pine marten trapping. And this is the brown dye. When you're doing waterline, especially, the brown seems to blend in a lot better with the water, or the bottom of the river. And I guess part of that might depend on where you live as well. So anyway, get a good dip on those. And what that does is it just gives them a good coating so that they don't rust as bad. And then just hang them up to dry. And just let them sit overnight. And they're ready to go. Okay, we're just getting ready to put in the last batch here of these long spring traps. You can see there's a huge difference between the dye and the undyed, and I'm gonna let them dry overnight, and then we'll wax them tomorrow. So we'll show you when that comes around. Okay, as you can see, after we dyed the cold dipped the water traps last night, they turned out pretty good. They got a nice brown color to them, and we're just starting this morning to melt the wax in the wax pot. You have to be very careful with wax, and just put it on a medium heat while it heats up, because if you get it too hot, you can burn it, and then you have to throw it all out. If you get it too cold, then it clumps up on the traps. And so when this wax gets completely melted, we'll show you how to make sure you got it somewhere in the vicinity of the right temperature anyway. Okay, the wax is ready, and I've been dipping a few traps. When you get it to the right temperature, as you'll notice here in this wax pot, the wax just looks like it's moving around a little bit, rolling around a little bit, might have just a couple little tiny bubbles on it. If you get moisture in it, it'll have a whole bunch of bubbles or foam on top. You don't want that. Make sure your traps are dyed before you dip them. And you don't want it to ever boil, because that's way too hot. So just get it so it's just almost a little tiny simmer to it, and that'll work. Now, there's some talk about how long to leave it in. Some people I've heard say as little as 15 seconds. I leave mine in for about 45 seconds to a minute. What you need to do when you put that trap in, the trap's cold compared to the wax, and you need just a little bit of time for that metal to warm up. And if you don't do that, you're going to get big thick chunks of wax on your trap. And if you leave it in longer, it's not going to make a difference, but you got to let the metal get up to temp before you pull that out. Then when you're ready, you just grab that trap, and make sure you wear some gloves because it's very hot. And I just pull that out, let it drain good, and then go hang it up. And then you'll want to do this in an area where you don't have too much in the way of like cement or something you don't want to drip the wax on, because the wax is very difficult to get rid of once it sticks to something. Now, if you notice, I've got a few traps in a row here. I've put them on cardboard before to let them dry, and it just leaves big chunks of wax and stuff on them. So make sure you hang them up. I've got this rotating old clothesline out here, and I put them on and I turn them, and by the time they come back around they're cooled off enough, and then I'll go ahead and I'll put them in this tote right here. Now today I have about 13 dozen traps I've got to wax, so this is going to take me about 2.5 to 3 hours. So when you're doing it, if you got a bunch of traps, just take the time. I mean, make sure it's done right. Okay, these traps have had time to cool off, and as you can see, they've got kind of a matte finish to them, and that's how you can tell when they're completely cooled. If you look at this one over here, I just took out of the wax. It's all shiny, and as that cools, it'll turn kind of a matte finish to it. So now it's time to take them off, start putting them in the tote. Okay, it's getting dark, but anyways, when we're done with all the dyeing and waxing of the traps, then we'll pack them all in the totes, or these big plastic boxes. When you are carrying your traps, it's good to keep all of the fumes, like gasoline fumes and food smells and different things, off of them. And a lot of guys trap out of a truck. I trap out of a Suburban, and so I try to keep them sealed up as much as I can so they don't get any foreign odors in them. Some of the guys like to put, like if you're going to trap out in sagebrush, they'll put a piece of sagebrush in there to kind of pick up that smell. Or if they're trapping up an area with a lot of pine trees, they'll put some pine boughs in with the traps. Whatever works for you, whatever area you're in, but it is good to keep them sealed up until you're ready to trap. And so tomorrow we're going trapping. Okay, as you guys can see, after you get your traps dyed and waxed, then you got to go out on the trap line. This is trap fox number 4 for us, just in the last few days, and this one's got real good color to it. So, and you can see my boys there in the background. That's actually my son that caught this fox, and so it's kind of a fun family activity for us to go trapping. Thanks.